Hello, my name's Ella Jean, fantasy author extraordinaire, and for the sake of this video, you should know, unpublished. I thought I would cover my writing goals of 2025. I have been trying to be traditionally published, aka the whole I send my book to an agent picks me up, sends the book to the publisher, whole bunch of editing in between, go to the big five where you make a whole bunch of money. That's a lie. You don't make a lot of money, but we'll ignore that fact. I've been trying to be traditionally published my entire college career, and yet I remain unpublished. The goal cannot just be published. Books don't get published in under a year. I don't even know if the goal can be find an agent. My goal simply is going to be to get better at writing. So I'm gonna practice a shit ton of writing and editing and all that. And I've split this up into my definite category, aka they're either going to get me closer to the idea of publishing or be for a college grade, and my maybe if Ella reaches a little bit and be a little stupid with her time and is willing to spend late nights. But starting us off strong in my definitely going to write this book is my YA high fantasy political intrigue book. I've been calling it Whispers in the Shadows, and I have tried to write this book, I think, for 6 years now. It is currently a book that I'm going to have to finish because I have labeled it my honors capstone that I need to write to graduate. AKA, if I don't finish this book, I can't fucking graduate. This semester, for the record. I'm graduating this semester, as long as this book gets written. It's been so many things. Covered so many different bases. The first draft I ever wrote was in high school, and I don't really want to trash on that book because I actually really liked that book. It has grown into its own thing, focusing on a girl named Naya Bell who accepts a deal to pretend to be the prophet at the royal celebration, the Feast of Yidis. This is where all the nations come together, kind of like an Olympic situation, just not sports-based, where they all come together and meet up and talk, and for the first time, Queen Celia has sent an invitation to the country's mortal enemy, the Iron Court. The Iron Court has accepted, and they're going to be there. And Naya, just this random peasant girl, has been tasked to pretend to be the holy prophet, for reasons that she does not know, but for the sake of saving her family's lives. Yeah, it's a fun book. And as dramatic as I'm being with it has to be written or else I will fail. I was told most people, when they do a book for their honors capstone, they don't even finish the first draft and they have to shorten it to a novella. I wrote the first draft of this in one semester, last semester when I was taking 18 hours. So I'll be fine. This is an entirely personal project. I have been trying to write and make Whispers in the Shadows happen for years. Like I said, working on 6 now, and I think I'm finally ready, and it's going to be completely personal. My goal is not to publish this piece, mainly because it can't be a debut, because it ends with, the bad guy winning. It'd be a series that, you go on and defeat the bad guy in the end, but yeah, it straight up is going to end book 1 with the bad guy winning. You can't debut, really. Never say can't, because it's a creative industry where publishing sucks and anything could happen at any time. Debuting on a book that ends on a cliffhanger like that is really difficult. Damn, I'm gonna write this fucking book, and it's gonna be done around May. At the same time, in another college writing class that I've taken, dramatic adaptation, I'm going to be trying to write a film adaptation of Fablehaven by Brandon Mull. I don't write film. Never written film. Took a class called dramatic adaptation because I had the professor before and I had written one play with him the semester before, and get in and he's like, you can either write a play or a film. And I went, I'm writing a whole last book this semester. I at least have experience with a play. Let's try a new medium! I never said I'm smart, y'all. Ambitious. Give me ambitious, but I never said I'm smart. But I will be attempting to adapt Fablehaven. I don't know if you will ever hear of that project again. I'm not a film writer, not a script writer. Never been my thing. May appear again, I may come back and say I'm never writing film again, or I may turn this into a film channel. Who knows? You may notice both of those in this semester and go, Ella, what's your plan for the rest of the year? I don't have one. I don't have a good one. I am a person who has always thrived on college, so my plan is to panic. Book-wise, though, I am going to repolish the book that I was trying to get published last year. My young YA contemporary fantasy for those who seek magic. This is a book that follows Margie Turnell as she is attempting to overcome anxiety and maybe make friends, only to happen to make friends with a conspiracy theorist who's determined to prove magic exists, and basically drags their entire group into the sewers of Chicago to prove it. Yeah, it's chaotic. I wrote this book 2 years ago. It was a completely different book at the time. If you've ever heard the advice, you only know you're ready to be published when the book is nothing like the book that started. The book that I started writing 2 years ago is now plot-wise basically going to be book 4 in this series, if I ever get a series. You see, I love writing, but I want to be a published author, and I want to make my money and make my living writing. And if your first book doesn't sell, you're not gonna swing in with a book 2 and say, hey, book 1 never got picked up. How about book 2 in a series that's already failed? So, I actually don't write the sequels to books unless the first one gets picked up. It sucks. Sometimes you look at yourself and go, oh my god, there were so much there and so much potential, and you get so lost with your characters and your world. To me, it hurts myself more to finish a series I know no one will read. Sometimes things need to change. Such is the case with For Those Who Seek Magic. You see, been querying it since August. Querying is where you're sending out to agents to try to get them to pick you up, to then edit it and send out to publishers. I'll have interest, I'll stay in the lists, and when I check it up in like 8 weeks, they'll be like, you're still in my list, still check it out, still giving it a chance, but it'll always come down to a rejection. The idea of writing to the industry is a complicated subject. How much of your work do you need it to be yours to still be proud of it and have care for it without feeling like you've sold out or given something up? I actually said that I'm never going to write to the industry. I'm always going to have it be my ideas, my world, my pacing, my structure. However, I think I know where For Those Who Seek Magic is failing. I don't introduce the magic till chapter 15. I think it's worth the wait. The beta readers that have read it and who know me and are willing to read all the way through the book believe that it is worth the wait. But just as you really can't debut with Whispers in the Shadows because it ends on a cliffhanger, you really can't debut on a fantasy book that takes 15 chapters to get to the fantasy. So I'm speeding it up. For a while, was worried I would lose the meaning of the words that I've written. But I think I found a solution. And that solution is following a trope. Oh god. Yeah, I'm gonna totally have the writing trope of main character doesn't know anything about magic, but family was involved in magic. Sue me. It's a good trope. It's a good setup. It starts things well. And if used correctly, it doesn't feel entirely tropey. Wow, it's almost like there's tropes for a reason, and they set up books real well. I would like For Those Who Seek to be ready to query. by the end of the year. Because I ain't ready. I ain't ready to lose it yet. However, there are some other ideas that I've had that I may or may not get to if I have time, or if the itch to write something else strikes. All of these are old ideas, because I hoard ideas like a little goblin instead of coming up with new ones. So the first is a literary novel. I know, me writing something other than genre, it's time travelers. And it's told from the perspective of an immortal woman born in like BC time. As she interacts with a time traveler who at first was going back in time to be the first time traveler and to get history and things like that, but continues to come back to meet with this immortal woman. Except that the time traveler isn't immortal. She has a human lifespan. So she can only give this immortal so much time. And the immortal wants to spend a lifetime with her, but the only way to do that is to leave her for sometimes hundreds of years at a time. Yeah, I have like the whole timeline plotted out. I like sat down one day and I was like, this is a good idea. Then I like actually just went out and was like, I'm gonna see if the timeline works. And I have a whole timeline plotted out. It's hard to write a book where time jumps a lot. Covering in such a wide span of time and still getting to know the characters and then not like writing a 300,000 word novel is an odd balance to strike, and not one I've figured out yet. I've tried to write it twice, and both times I got through the first 3 chapters and been like, this ain't it. I may try her again. Probably fail. Come along for the ride. The other thought is, I've been doing a series. I reread some of the chapters and lines from the first novel I ever wrote. Wrote it freshman year of high school. 13-year-old Ella. Watched a lot of Supernatural at the time. The idea was, you know, like the stereotypical angel and demon on the shoulder look. What if not everyone had that? You only get that at very specific, important moments of your life. And it was following this one girl who was basically going to decide the apocalypse. So an angel and demon come down to plead their cases. Yeah, I like the idea. I know it looks a lot like Good Omens. I hadn't read Good Omens at the time. I knew nothing of Good Omens, but every time I bring it up, I'm like, I just rip off Good Omens. So I need to write it in a way that it wouldn't rip off Good Omens, but still stay true to little Ella's ideas. God, that would be funny. The last novel I've considered writing. So I'm schizophrenic. And schizophrenia has a complicated history with fantasy writing. Because so often, especially novels that are set in our world, contemporary fantasy, urban fantasy, all magical realism, it either turns into the horrible version of It Was All a Dream trope, where it's like, it was all hallucinations and they're locked up in a ward. Or it turns into, you weren't hallucinating, you were actually seeing visions. And both of those take away the possibility of it being something more. I want a book where there's magic and there's a schizophrenic character. I don't know how to write that. I've honestly been trying to figure it out for, well, fuck, as long as I've been diagnosed with schizophrenia. I'm a writer. I should fill the niche that I wasn't able to get. I should be able to normalize schizophrenia and write this book where you see that the mental illness isn't this horror story that so often it becomes. But there's also a lot of expectations on that. And I can't think of a good solution. So I keep putting it off. But if my goal this year is to become better at writing, maybe I'll give it another try and show once and for all that you can write good schizophrenic characters, even in this world where schizophrenia is a diagnosable illness. Maybe I'll play around with that. Those were most of the stories that I've come up with to write. There's always something that gets thrown in there. I think that's just the life of a writer. You start writing random shit. Last year, it was writing instead of having a mental breakdown. And I wrote a whole series about being in your body and being a mechanical being in a world that everyone else seems to get updates that you don't. It was when I was still getting diagnosed and still realizing that my brain doesn't function the way others do. I write to cope. I write to live. I write because that's who I am. And I'll never stop that. So there's definitely gonna be some side quests on the way. And if you're interested in sticking around to see them, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like. I'm still growing, y'all. I'm still trying to figure out this whole YouTube thing, but I'm getting closer. I am getting closer. So, I would like to build community with you guys. Because anyone can be a writer. And anyone can come together. And everyone has a story in them. See ya.